Good morning, all of my artsy friends. My name is Ken Johnson. You know me as your thrifty apprentice, and some of you affectionately call me Thrifty. And we are here with our regularly scheduled Monday Live. Now, we have done quite a bit this month. We're dead set in the middle of Inktober, which we were just discussing. So, my life has not worked out the way during the month of October that I planned. And that's what I get for planning it, right? Isn't that how that goes? So I have officially decided to cut the 31 days of Inktober down to 15. So I am going to be able to complete at least half of the month. Now, the reasons behind that are actually pretty simple. Because I'm trying to put so much emphasis on the actual sketching, the actual drawing, learning to ink, shade, and blend with the graphite and with the ink. Um, it's requiring me to put much more detail into the drawing. Whereas before I took this endeavor on, I was more of the, just get the outline right and then I'm going to do everything else with the paints. Well, for Inktober, I've kind of been trying to approach it from the opposite end of the spectrum, where I do as much as I can with the pencil and the ink. Um, and then just kind of accent it with the different paints and mediums that I tend to use. I'm not going to do any type of flip through right now of anything that I've done simply because I have so much more work to do. But I am working diligently in the background trying to get everything, inked. And once I get everything inked the way I want to, then I'm going to go back and add color with different mediums. And by the end of the month, I will have everything done and we will do a flip through. But am just throwing it out there that it will probably only be 15 or 16 days versus um, 31. And I'm good with that because I've told you guys it's not about how many of them that you can do. And it's not about necessarily doing something elaborate or even following the prompt in detail. It's more so about putting in as much practice as you can to get your drawing and your inking to a bit of a different level. That's pretty much what Inktober is. So, we have been talking about Inktober, of course, and of course, today is the announcement for our very first Inktober giveaway. Well, for the first Inktober giveaway we're going to be doing, which you guys know, is a copy of Pen and Ink Drawing Workbook by Alfonso Dunn. It is the Stillman and Burns Zeta Series Mixed Media Sketchbook and the Derwent Line and Wash Pan Paint Set, which comes with two liners, which are a number 8 and number. So here is the little set that is coming. It's gonna have a water brush. You're gonna get, it has ink tints, graphitint in some of the pastel shades, and then you're gonna get a number 8 line maker and a number and a 0.3 line maker. I'm gonna be honest with you about those line makers though. Um, I noticed, and I was really surprised about it as I did it. Like sometimes the ink will skip, especially on watercolor paper. And I thought that was really funny considering that it was a Derwent product, and some of my more economical fine liners don't skip. So I just thought that was just something curious to note. But that's the set that's going to be given away today randomly based on last week's live comment section. And today we are going to work with this set once again, especially considering it's the one that's being given away. Now, the workbook is probably my favorite product in the entire giveaway. The Stillman and Burn paper is decent. It's actually better than a lot of mixed media paper I've tried. So I understand the hype with that. I have a Master Durant line and wash set. I actually use on a semi-regular basis now. So I do like, which I really should use that because the only time I used this one was when we did Legs Weeks Live, and I still think I might want to. It's got a little love on it, slight love, because we did do one painting out of it. But I still may want to give this one away too, outside of um outside of the set that we're giving away today. So let me see if I can find my master set so I don't have to use that one to paint out of today. Give me just a second. Here we go. And I'll paint out this master set that I have, and I will clean the mixing lid up, and I'll probably just give this away randomly doing a live or something. Because again, it's only been used to swatch and do one little painting, so it's practically brand new. Let me close that up. Sit that to the side. I'm keeping my pens though. That's mine. Let's get this moved out the way so we can get some painting done. And I also want to put together a video on swatching, especially for newbies, because I think there is a misconception around what swatching is and what it should be used for. I think a lot of artists, especially beginner artists, kind of have it in their head that you swatch in order to learn the color placements of where your colors are in your palette, sort of like a memorization game. And I want to kind of change the concept around that, because you swatch paints for many different reasons. Memorizing where the color is probably at the very bottom of the list. So I'm probably going to put together a video on that as well really soon, because I've noticed from a lot of comment sections and videos and lives that that's a common question asked, especially with new artists. Why am I swatching my paints? So yeah. Anywho, let's stop rambling and get to painting for today. So last live we swatched out that set, and we did inking of the bowl, which I love, and I was actually kind of proud of once it dried and the ink smudging went away. Keep in mind that if you win this set and you're using ink on it, give the ink time to dry. I, it dries quick, but it'll puddle up for just a minute and it will smudge. So be careful. But once it dries, everything is fine. So that's what we did last week. And this week we're going to do something super quick out of this book just to give you another example. And then we'll go ahead and do the live announcement. Listen to me, giveaway announcement. What was I doing out of this book this time? I decided on the makeup brush because it would be something quick, easy to do, but more so because it's actually showing you how your line work can help you create textures of brush bristles, or this technique works well with painting hair. For animals, this works well with painting human hair if you're inking portraits. So I felt like the brush would be a really good, just kind of basic beginner example to kind of show you the direction you would go in for painting things like that. Now, of course, we're going to be using the line work to create brush bristles. But again, same concept would be used for animal hair or human hair, anything of that nature. Let's see if it's any questions before we jump off and get started. Make sure everything is on screen. All right. And let's see if I can get that swiveled around. So I can definitely be able to look at my example, because you guys know I draw by sight. I draw what I see, not what I think something looks like, which I think is why it may be hard for me sometimes to just draw some out of my imagination, because I've trained myself to draw what I see. Funny thing about that is that could be seen as a great thing, or it could kind of be seen as a hindrance. Because it requires a reference photo most times for me to pull something off. Now, I'm not knocking on it. If I have to paint like that the rest of my life, so be it. But that was wrong. One of the reasons of Inktober, to get myself to the point where I can try to pull away from stuff like that, if it makes sense. Out as wide as this bottom part here. And I come around. I do the same thing on the other side. Come around. And then I'm going to follow the curve of the top of that rectangle. just trying to keep it equal distance apart, like so. And that's basically the brush, right? Real easy, real simple, real straightforward. Now, I'm going to keep this number 8 here because that's as thick as I'm going to go with my lines. I actually have a 1 millimeter, but I won't pull that out unless I want to add super darks to an area really quickly. So from here, I will actually decrease the nib of my pen to add in my line work. This adds 3 dimension to a 2D flat object that you're only using graphite or pen on. And I'll throw this out there. There is a huge difference between shading and blending with graphite versus shading and blending with pen. And I'll be very honest, I do think that it's more of a learning curve to shade and blend with pen than it is with graphite, which is why I will throw out, if you are new to working with a pen, if you're new to working with ink, it is my suggestion that you start off with a graphite underdrawing and not try to just jump directly into the pen work. Or you can and just tough it out until you get to where you're trying to go. Whatever really works for you. But the way Thrifty had to approach it was that the first thing I learned to use was graphite. Draw, shade, blend with graphite. Then I made the step up with this whole Inktober thing with um, trying to transition what I know about graphite, what I know about painting, and meet in the middle with blending, shading with a pen. Again, it has been a learning curve for me, but I do feel like I'm getting there. So next thing I want to do is start adding in some of the line detail work. We're going to start, and the thing I love about Alfonso's books is that, as we talked about last live, it literally breaks every single step down so that you get to see the different components that were layered on top of each other to get your final overall outcome. So I'm going to step down from the point 0.8 nib, and I am going to pull out my pens here. Oh, Thrifty stomach is growling as usual. Y'all, I'm greedy. Okay. So if you always hear me talking about I'm hungry, I be for real. Cause I'm greedy. I like to eat. I like food. I don't eat pork, but I love food. I love food. Okay, so that's a point 0.8. I think I'm gonna step down to a point 0.5 to do the thicker line work here, or the preliminary line work that's the thickest of it all. Excuse me. And this is not a Durant. I'm gonna be honest. This is my favorite brand of fine liners for a lot of reasons. This is Creative Mark Super Black Fine Liners. Creative Mark is a house brand for Jerry's Autorama. Now, these pens are super black, super saturated, super economical because you can get an entire pack of them ranging from 0.25 millimeter in size all the way up to a 1 millimeter all in one pack for like 13, 14 bucks. Amazing price. And I've had this set of fine liners. This is my third Inktober with this set of fine liners. So 3 years. And keep in mind, I do ink and wash in between Inktobers. So I've used these fine liners quite a bit, and I really, really, really like them. So let's get this a cracker lacking. Now we're drawing in just our major. Let's see if I move this down a little bit more so you guys can see, if possible. So what did we learn last live? When doing linear work and you're doing a circle or a cylinder, what do you want to do? You want to make sure that your linear work curves or contours to the shape of the object so that it looks natural and adds dimension right away. So it looks like this linear work at the very bottom is spaced evenly, and the curves run around the shape based on where it is. Now, I'm going to start in the very middle, and I'm going to show you why. I'm starting in the very middle because the very middle is like your segue point. Everything on one end of the middle is going to shape the object in one direction, and everything on the other end of the middle is going to shape it in the opposite direction. So if I'm curving right towards the right, I'll curve left towards the left, like so. I'm going to angle this just a little bit. And I'll start my thicker line, so I'm kind of gauging the middle. And I'll curve it around my image to the left, towards the left. But I'll also curve around my image to the right, towards the right, giving me that bow in the middle. And that bow is where I'm going to work the rest of my linear line work from. So everything to the right, I'm going to try to keep it evenly spaced. And I will go around the object, curving my linear work to the right. Now the opposite side, everything to the left. Again, I'll try to keep the same line spacing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but all of my linear work will curve around the bottom of that to the left. See? Pretty simple and straightforward once you get the hang of it. Easy. All right. Let's move on to the next segment. Now, the next segment here seems to have sort of the same line work going on. Here's the difference. The difference is it's closer together and has more of a straighter feel to it versus it's still curved, but it's not as much. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to find my center again, and it'll bow, but it won't bow as much. See that? Now I do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm still keeping that same ideal of curving right on the right side, curving left on the left side. These are going to be a little closer together, but they're going to look a little straighter than the bottom section, although they're still curving. See? I'll do the same thing here. Still curving. It just looks a little straighter than that bottom did. Like so. See that? All right. Let's see here. What's next? Next is the larger rectangular area. Now I'm gonna just draw what I see. Okay. Long story short. Um, so here I see line pull up there, and then right beside that, not quite towards the top, is gonna start here, bow out, and then down. Is it gonna be perfect? Nah. But I'm still gonna try to draw what I see. Right next to that, I have sort of an oblong, more of an oval, um, that starts at the bottom of that rectangle, goes up and over. The point sort of goes towards the left. So let's see if I can pull this off. It's about here that it starts. It goes up towards the left and curves back and over like that. And then right in the middle of that is like this little cute box. They got a hook on it. Bop with a hook. Bop with a hook. All right. Let's see. Next. Um, right next to that is this sort of V chocolate dripping on a cake sort of drop. Um, yeah. And it starts just short or just shy of the top of this mark, but it actually goes to the very top of that rectangle we drew, and it's going to come in a little bit. It's going to come down like a little chocolate, dropping, drizzling off of a cake, and then it's going to curve back up to just short of the top. And then right in the middle of that is another little boop. We'll call it a boop. A little boop there. Okay. Moving on. Next one is sort of freehand for sort of. Let me see if I'll tell you what. Let me start from this, and I'm smudging it. Do you guys see? I smudged a little bit, so be careful. These pens do take just a second to dry on this mixed media paper. So I'm gonna start now. This one actually starts in the corner here, touching the top. It circles around, bows out, comes in, and bows out, touching the bottom like so. And then there's another little, this little boop that we did over here and right here. We're gonna do another little boop over here, and it's gonna angle again left. But you see more of the left side of this boop than the right side because the right side is wrapping around our object. So it'll start really short on this end, come up, and then it'll flow around on this end, coming back down like that. So it looks like it's wrapping around the object, if that makes sense. Okay. And then there is the final thicker line inside our main rectangle, a circular rectangle. Let me see if I can get this one. So we're gonna, oh, I don't know, it's about a fourth of an inch over from the top here, and it starts kind of hooked, and it'll come down like so. It'll go up, swirl over, and come back down. Yeah, that's not bad. I think that works. All right. Moving on to the top section here. And the top section is pretty much like the middle section here, where the lines are not as curved. They're a little bit more straight, although they're still curved. I'm gonna angle this again. And always angle your paper where you're comfortable drawing. So starting in that same middle, it'll wrap that way, wrap that way, and we'll do the same thing, keeping it kind of curving and even, going to the right, curving it, keeping it evenly spaced, going to the left. And there we have the basic basis of our brush handle. Okay. Now, everything after this is actually pretty easy. What we're going to end up doing is adding extra line weight to what we've done after we get all of our other lines in, just for emphasis. And it won't be all over, it'll just be in certain areas. So we'll increase that nib, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's move on to our smaller line weight. Now, I'm going to do a huge jump in nib size, because those lines look super, super thin to me, friends. Super thin. So I'm going to drop it all the way down to like a 0.25 nib. I'm going to skip over 3. I'm going to go to the smallest one that I have. I used to have a 0.2, I believe, but that one dried up. I mean, dried completely up. So let's see here. Well, I have a 2mm chisel. That would work. And there's my 0.25mm. Let's see what we can do with this 2mm chisel. Now, this is a different specimen. I do suggest that if you are not used to lining, that you just stick to your regular round nibs until you get comfortable with inking before you try to switch over to something like a chisel nib, because these nibs are going to work a lot like the chisel end of an alcohol marker. Let me throw that out there. Okay. So I'm going to start with what looks like a thin linear line that runs through this entire bottom section towards the top of that middle section, like so. Yes, love the thin line. I love the control you can get with a nail. You can come up, I'm sorry, with a chisel, you can come up on the very tip of the chisel, get really super thin lines, or you can use the belly of the chisel in order to increase your lines or your darkness. But again, not something I would suggest you run out and buy unless you're a little comfortable with the whole inking process. All right. Let's see. Now, towards the bottom here, we have some kind of curvy, wiggly, and they are about an eighth of an inch from each other. And then towards the bottom of that, we're going to have hatching. And it's going to come just above. And keep in mind, the hatching will switch directions too. The hatching will switch directions. It'll be your hatch circling towards the right on the right, your hatch circling towards the left on the left. Keep directional coloring in mind. And here's the great thing about shading and blending with graphite or shading and blending with ink. If you are a color book artist, your entire world is based on shading and blending because most of the illustrations are already done for you. So you have to bring that flat 2D image to life mainly through your shading and your blending. So I think that ink work like this helps you develop muscle memory. And it'll help with all walks of art, including coloring book work. Um, so let's see. And it looks like some of these actually come a little higher with that shading. So let me make sure I get the full effect of that. And I'm just hatching. No cross hatching, straight hatching, straight hatching. Let me see. Do I have a little piece of paper I can? I'll show you here. Straight hatching, straight hatching. I'm not doing this. This is cross hatching, and cross hatching is used to add darker value to a space. What I am doing is a regular hatching in a circular motion one way, and then when I get to the other one, I'm doing hatching in the opposite direction. This is single hatching. It's going to call for medium value to a space. Okay. So that's kind of what we're kind of working on there. Now I'll move up to the next section. I'm gonna be honest. I need to lift it so I can see. So there is major lining going through here. There seems to be just here on the bottom this little whoop-de-doop that comes up like that. And then right above that is another little whoop-de-doop that curves upward. And what I'm doing is getting in the baselines, um, which are going to be thickened with that number 8 nib later on. Now what I'm going to do is the exact same thing. I'm doing singular hatching from the top of the space to the bottom of the space, following the direction of the object. So real quick, choppy lines to add in hatching to the middle, stop, switch directions. And I'm going to add hatching in the opposite direction like so. Okay, we're starting to see an image come together here. Starting to see an image. So, let's see. Next section. Now, this is interesting because I tell you what, let's start with the hatching from the right side because it's only a third of the way up that entire section. It's not a lot of it, and it's spaced out pretty well. You don't start getting to your major hatching lines until you get to the side of the object that is showing shadow. It would seem that the light is coming from this direction. And that's something I should have said earlier. When you're drawing, be it graphite or pen, the first thing you want to do is establish your light source. That is going to be the first thing you want to do because it's going to help you majorly with your shading. Okay, so it will look it from this image. It seems as though the light source is coming from the bottom, so we're just going to stick to it being that way. I mean, you could switch it over to the other side if you wanted to, but for the sake of this live and following these instructions, we're going to do it this way. So basically, what I'm going to do, and I'm using the very point of that chisel. I'm just going to come over, make a few hatching lines, following the shape, only going up so far, like so. It's like not a lot of it at all. And then when I get about here, it switches direction, and this is where you're going to start to see it get closer together and start to run up the page. But here's what's running up the page, I'm noticing. It breaks. It's not a continuous line, not right here, because you're trying to keep it thin and give the illusion that it's actually less shadow in this area than it is towards the heavier shadowed side. So these lines are going to be broken and loose, right? And you could actually, let me show you a trick. You could actually break and loose them lines up all the way across because you know that your hatching over in that area has to get darker anyway. So I'm just going to make those straight lines real quick just to fill in that area. And it's going to help me get a better idea of just how light and broken I need this side to be to blend out to white, right? With that, I can go back and add the hatching in heavier on the side where it needs to be. I am starting from the top neck, pulling that stroke all the way down to the bottom, or from the bottom neck, pulling that stroke all the way up. But guess what I'm doing? I'm still keeping the direction. I'm still slightly curving, making those hatches circular to keep shape, like so. Real quick. It's quick. This one is quick, guys. This one is quick. That's why I chose it because it's easy. And I felt like if you wanted to follow along, you would feel accomplished after everything was said and done. Absolutely. 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 All right. Now let's move to the top little section here. And it's not much going on. We're gonna have let's see, there's a little funny boot bow here. And then there's a little funny boot bow that runs around that. Then there's one that runs over that, circles off on that end. There's a little thingamabob right here. Don't y'all talk about my thingamabobs. And then there's one over on this side, like so. All right. Now we are going to do shading. We're going to hatch to get some shade over here because that's the darker side. And you'll keep it really close together towards the left side. And as you move towards the center, the hatching will space out more to fade off. Actually, a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. All right, let's get some hair. Should I say hair? Some bristles on our brush. Now, I am going to switch over to, well, that 2 millimeter chisel was doing a pretty good job. So I think I'm gonna just stay there. If you're doing this and you don't have a chisel, my suggestion would be like a 0.2 millimeter, a 0.25 millimeter. I probably would not go higher than a 0.3 millimeter nib for this, simply because I feel like the lines will be a little thick for hair because we're emulating real hair on a brush here. So it is what it is. How I'm going to do it, I'm going to start with a straight line going in one direction, kind of curving up towards the top, and off of that line, I'm going to put hatching marks to immediately start emulating like hair or bristles. I'll do the same thing off the opposite end. Let's see, bloop, uh, bloop. Yeah, it's about even. And I'll draw those same hatching lines off this end in the opposite direction. Now, instantly, you're going to get the feel that we've got bristles, hair. Like you're going to immediately start to feel that way. Um, so yeah, and then from here, it's going to be okay. I should be back. I just gotta. Can we hear? Are we back? Okay, I'm sorry about that. The screen freezing. My phone is running out of juice. So here's the thing, friends. I'm finna have to switch mics so I can plug my phone in. So the sound may change a little bit. Forgive me for that. So just hold on a second. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Let's see. Where was I? We were putting in. I was using a 2mm chisel to put in um, the hatching. So let's just keep working on this. We got some much darker, longer bristles in here. So I'm actually pushing down heavier with that chisel. I'm using more of the belly at this point, just so I can get some weight. In that bristle area. And I'm just kind of going in and putting in the darker of the bristles that are in there. Just kind of drawing what I see. Just kind of filling in where the darker areas are. Um, Kind of spaced out a little evenly. Yes, my stomach working on it. And this is actually darker. So let's get it in a little more. I'm adding a little bit more pressure here. Just because I want that darker. Don't feel like I was getting the darkness that I wanted from that. And I feel like that's better. I'm adding in, okay, so it looks like everything else is mid-tone. So now it's just a matter of, notice how I'm shading. This is called scribble shading. I'm telling you, you learned so much from Alfonso. So much. I had no idea about that until this workbook. None whatsoever. Alright, and then off the top, I'm just going to keep it light and wispy. The brush is getting longer and longer. Don't make yours get long. I'm getting carried away. But you get the idea. And you kind of want to keep the bristles decently the same length. And that, my friends, is how quick that is. That's how quick that is. And I am going to go ahead and do a little bit more hatching off the end. What happens is you give it a little detail, and then what happens? Your brain kicks in and fills in the rest. I tell you all the time, right? I tell you, just think of it like a tree. You know, think of you're drawing a landscape, and I don't know, your landscape got some water. You guys know I'm just being silly here. You got some trees going on. And you got those trees up front, right? La 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 la. What happens if those trees are up front and you start seeing this in the background? What does your brain do? Your brain automatically sees a group of trees. Although the ones in the back are just strict lines, and the ones on the front are the one that holds the detail. Because your brain automatically kicks in and recognize what this scene is supposed to be. You do not have to draw in every single detail in order to pull off what you're trying to pull off. It's something to keep in mind. Listen to me sounding like I'm some type of drawing expert. All this is stuff that I've picked up over Inktober, really being consistent, really working um, to try to get better. So there we have it. We're gonna let that dry for a second, then we're gonna add some color to it. Absolutely, absolutely. So, what color should our brush handle be? I don't know. I like green. Let's make it green. Don't leave anything up to me, because if you leave it up to me, everything will end up being green or yellow or some earthy tones. So I'm gonna grab. Let's go with a dagger brush in my dirty paint water here. I do paint with dirty water sometimes. Actually, painting with dirty water has its advantages, regardless of what people say. Oh, another video. I swear I be talking to you guys, and I come up with so many video ideas. Um, let's shoot for sort of the earthy brown in here. Reddish brown is more burnt sienna, maybe tone. And I'm actually going to wet my brush first, my brush base first, mainly because I want you to see how the ink is dried and it won't spread in this book. Whoever gets this, whoever wins this little set, I think you're gonna really enjoy it. This paper is actually pretty good. I see why everybody who uses this book raves about. I don't think I'm not sure if I've used a better mixed media paper in all honesty. I wish I could buy it in sheets, because then I would start binding my sketchbooks with it, because I think I like this better than the Universal Mixed Media by Creative Mark, which is saying a lot, because you guys know I love that paper and I love buying my sketchbooks with it. It's getting decent saturation. Just kind of want to see a sheen there. And I'm going to grab, and I'm going to start to fill in my brush. I am keeping the pressure and the amount of color I'm adding a little light towards the lighter end, and then afterwards I'm going to actually take my studio rag and blot a little bit there. And then we're going to get much heavier with our paint and consistency in our hatched area. So all of this will be mid-tone and super dark. After everything dries, I'm gonna go back and thicken up the thicker black lines that we need. I just want to go ahead and get the color down. So once again, you'll see how smoothly this paint glides across and works with this paper. Now it's going to be a color shift because I did pre-wet and I am painting with sort of watery wash here. Absolutely. And then I'm going to grab nothing but water and blend that on across. See if I can get a little bit heavier here on the bottom where some hatching would be. And this is another thing I love about pen. Pen does so much of the work. And I feel like I need to be careful because I don't want it to be hard for me to put the pen down once Inktober is over and go back to the regular way I paint. Or maybe I'll just start incorporating the pen in, period. Because I am still developing what one might call their own artist style. Still working on that. And I'm just layering here. I'm just building layers to add saturation. Building layers to add saturation. Alright, I think we should let that dry. I don't want it to be so stark that it doesn't look natural. So I'm using small circular motions to blend the highlighted area. Kind of control it, so to speak. There we go. Think that's better. We need to get it a second to dry, and then we can add a little bit more darkness in those areas that we need to. Do I want to do anything in the bristle area? Don't think I need to, or that I should. The hairs are going to be black. I tell you what, I will actually take a little bit of the black from the set, and it's just to do a little shading. Actually, let me add more water to that. I'm not sure if I should do this, but you guys know I love to experiment, so let's see. Okay, I like that actually. And then just blend it upwards. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Adds fullness to the brush. Like that, like that, like that, like that a lot. Let's grab a little bit more of that. We'll work our way from the top. I'm not gonna do too much in this area. Still being sure to make sure my white still shows through, so that you can, so that it's breathing. I will get a little bit heavier towards the bottom with it, where it's like more dense coming out the top of the brush. And then with the tip, I'm blending upwards. I'm on the very tip of that dagger, almost holding it at a 90-degree angle, and I'm just blending upward, not going all the way to the top. And then I'm gonna grab water, rinse my brush, dry it off just a little bit, and then from the top, blend backwards. Do it again. There we go. All right, friends, all I need to do is give it time to dry a little bit and add in some darker tones here. I mean, if you're gonna put a shadow under this, it's a little weird at the angle I have it drawn, because no brush would really sit that way. I should have drawn it on its side like it was laying down, but you know, if it was going to be shadow there, this is going to be so weird. Do I need to do this? I don't think I really do need to. And plus, it's light here, so for some reason the light is coming from this direction, so we wouldn't have shadow here anyway. We'll just leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. Yes, indeed. So I'm gonna grab, let's go ahead and get this finished up. I'm gonna grab some of that same bricky red I was using, and I'm gonna aim for an ultramarine blue to mix in. We wanna gray it up just a little bit. Not too much. I want to keep it towards the brown side. And then I'm going to go in, excuse me, and add that in on the shadow side. It's going to give darker color, darker saturation. And then I'm going to quickly blend it on out. Why am I saying quickly? Can anybody tell me? There we go. To win today's giveaway, somebody jump in the comment section and tell me why I said I wanted to quickly blend it out. Why did I not want to give that time to dry? Somebody tell me first answer on my side, you will win today's live giveaway. Yep, yep, yep. First person I see on my side that can figure it out and tell me why do I not want to give this color time to dry before I blend it out? Somebody tell me. Quickly before it dries, again, I'm going to blend it out. And let's put a little bit of that towards the top here. Again, I'm going to quickly blend that out. But I don't want any harsh lines. This is a mixed media paper. Let's do the opposite side here just to give it a little shape. I'm going to do a little bit around the neck there. Then again, with my brush, squeeze off the water, blend it out. I'll do the bottom the same way. Let me mix up a little bit more of that color. And notice I'm not rinsing in between. I can always clean the cake when I need to. And I'm just getting that shadow in quickly. And then I'm gonna blend it out. Blend it out. Nice, 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 nice. I like that. Let's get it a little bit darker towards the opposite end of the brush. And this I'm not going to blend out as much. I'm actually just going to paint until the paint runs off of my brush. Until it starts to skip. It's going to dry brush a little bit. It's going to add texture. And I'm just going to keep going until it runs off my brush. I'm not going to blend it out. Like so. Let's see if we can kind of do the opposite end here just to make sure it's got a lot of roundness to it. And again, I'm letting it run off my brush. I'm not actually blending it out. Here we go. I like that. It's kind of cute. I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll darken up some of the lines that I wanted to add a little bit more detail to. All right, so finish this up real quick. I'm gonna grab that 0.8 and I just wanna go in and thicken and darken my boops. You remember the boops we did? Okay, we're going in and we're thickening and we're darkening the boops. And here's the thing, I might even, add boops where I don't need it. Y'all know me. I'm seeing like that boop. I just added that boop there. It was not in the original, but we're gonna do it anyway. And I'm keeping the heavier weighted lines to the darker shaded side. I am not increasing the weight of the lines going into the midtones or the lights. I'm only increasing the weight of the lines in the shadow area. Okay. And I'll increase the weight of the bottom of these lines because they're in the shadow area. That's it. I'm not going to increase the line weight of the top of them. Just kind of blend that into nothing, just like that. Love the way that looks. Now I need to add line weight to the bottom because again, these are in shadow. In shadow. So I'm adding line weight. Thickening it up. And it makes the details stand out so much more. There we go. Simple, straightforward, together. Love the way that came out. I think we've done quite a bit while doing very little today. Hopefully you all have enjoyed hanging out, and hopefully you have enjoyed today's ink and wash lesson. Now, beyond this video, we still will be concentrating on ink and wash throughout the month of October, but not as much. Now, we do have another giveaway to go on this month, which we will be working with those products and announcing that giveaway next Monday's live. Okay, so next Monday's live, we will be talking about the final products and the final giveaway for Inktober. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell so you do not miss when we go live or when we upload. Now, this upcoming Wednesday, I was going to do a video that I'm backing off of, and I'm rerouting myself in order to do the mini travel palette video where I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of the travel palettes I have, what they're filled with, the ones I like, the ones I don't like, how you could possibly make some yourself, where you can source them at, things of that nature. I'm not sure if it'll be any illustrating or creation in that video, but knowing me, I don't normally drop a video without illustration or creating something in it. So more than likely it will be. Um, yeah. So from Alfonso Dunn's book, here's what we've done. We did the illustration we did today, which came out really well. Super easy to follow his instructions. And then the very first thing we did was out of this book was the bow tie that we did during the last live, where again we followed his instructions and was able to achieve a really nice outcome. So definitely put pen and ink workbook by Alfonso Dunn on your must-have list. Okay, I feel like every artist, regardless of your skill level, be you a beginner or a novice, you will benefit from this book. I have grown leaps and bounds between this book, the book that we're going to be looking at next Monday for the live giveaway, and there's another ink and wash book. Oh, it's the book from next live giveaway. So yeah, because I've actually had the book that we're giving away next live a lot longer than I've had this workbook. But this workbook is the chef's kiss for someone who really wants to beef up their inking. Thank you, friends, so much for joining me today. It was my pleasure to have you. Do keep in mind that if you are a part of the Creation Station, we will have a live tonight at 8 p.m. If you are not a part of the Creation Station on Patreon, I encourage you to find the link in any video description for Patreon. Go check it out. It's $2 a month, and it is full of great things. We do a weekly live. We have one real-time, in-depth paint along every month. We do behind the scenes videos, which I'm going to start shooting a behind the scenes video today, because we're about to pick back up our Five Below and Dollar Tree painting series. I'm going to be adding some more videos to those. Of course, we have some videos being added to the Timu painting series, because I'm finally ready to review that first set of paints that came in the last Timu art haul. Yeah, so since there's no further questions, again, thank you so much for joining me. I want you guys to go out, enjoy your Monday, the rest of your week. Meet me back here Wednesday at 10 a.m. for a pre-recorded release, Sunday at 10 a.m. for a pre-recorded release, and next Monday at 11 a.m. live, Central Standard Time. Thank you, and remember, as I tell you at the end of every video, other than the fact that I love you guys, just keep creating.